Voltec and Eva with you here. I just want to shoot a quick video about Prius, Gen 2 Prius transmission problems. This here is what I believe to be a good transmission, although it has not been tested in a vehicle yet. But I have tested the resistance on the windings using a milliohm meter, and everything looked good on that. There was the oil color was actually pretty good. In my book, that's pretty good. 133K. It's actually still somewhat transparent. I know it's hard to see in that, but if that color is a purplish color with metal shavings in it, transmission's probably bad. Now, when I pulled the drain plug on this, on the magnet there was a little bit of shavings, but nothing bad for 133K. This here, that looks like water droplets. That's actually a type of insulation that I've been told they dip this whole thing in there once it's all completed, the windings that is, and all this part that's all tied. It kind of feels like a cast material right now, and normally this would all be in transmission fluid, just ATF. But anyways, the reason why I'm bringing that up was because I don't know if you could see it on this camera, but on these eyelets, it also comes up here, and it on the crimp. On this one here, though, it was kind of missing it, so not really sure why. And I was cleaning out down here. That's the pickup tube, and the filter screen is back in there for the oil pump or transmission fluid pump, and so I cleaned that out with some brake fluid, and I'll probably have to clean it a little more. But you do not want to spray that on this. I am not sure if it would deteriorate or compromise that insulation material, and I don't want to find out. But I did take one of these pieces and just kind of pulled it off and sprayed some brake clean on it, and I couldn't tell, any difference, but I don't want to find out. And the whole reason that I took this off in the first place, you don't have to take this cover off if you're doing a trans swap, because the junkyard, they cut off this part. It comes in here. Now, a lot of times they'll do that. This is MG2 right here, by the way, on this side. Almost always they'll do that on MG1, which is really not a big deal. Make sure you save all your connectors. These always get smashed from the junkyards, and as you can see, I had to pull this one off, but I got some others that I saved. But yeah, this is easy. It's just two 10 millimeter bolts here and 4 more, and you can pop this off and take that off. And you do need to put a gasket maker material on there. It's not pressurized, and that's on the top of the transmission, so still, you don't want it to leak. We had also pulled this off earlier just to take a peek. Said, hey, we're doing all this, why not? That's the parking prowl mechanism. Oh, very important. This here is a 2005 Prius. If you have 04 and 05, and you are doing a transmission or engine transmission swap, you need to take this piece off your old one, unless you have 04 or 05, because now I believe 09 might work. 08 or 09, there was an update to this, but if you have a 06 or 07 transmission with this parking control or on here, it's going to give you a code in there that there's a problem with your parking mechanism, park it in a flat place. It works fine. The car will drive, but you're always going to have that message. And that's why I've taken this off. I've disassembled it. I couldn't find any difference other than, well, they have the same part numbers on the outside here. If you look on the imprint. On the inside, I did find some different numbers, and I did find a I don't know if it was a TSB or something else, service bulletin, that said that I believe by '08 and '09 they had made a design that would accommodate, if you put this into '04 or '05, it wouldn't have that problem. But if you use '06 or '07, you'll have that problem. So if you just take this piece off and put it on yours, that works fine, and no more issues with that. So coming over here, okay, on this side, this is where it will connect to the transaxle. They call this the damper assembly. Initially, I thought this might have been the problem when this car was brought in. Customers are saying it just started making this noise. It sounds bad, and it seems to be getting worse. And yeah, transmission failure. And it was like a loud. How do I describe it? It sounds like if you got gears moving and you start throwing pieces of metal into it. Yeah, it doesn't sound good. But if you got a car, or if you got a Gen 2 Prius that has no check engine lights other than misfire codes, random misfire codes, and you've gone through all the usual things, you've done all the cleaning, clean the MAF, clean the intake, you know that you don't have a misfire. But the car vibrates like crazy, and everybody's going to tell you have a bad transmission. The problem is not the transmission. I should really be charging for this one. I'll give it away for free. Problem is your lower engine mount. What you see here, or what you don't see here, is a metal donut-shaped piece that goes there with a big rubber bushing washer, and it's basically glued to that. I mean, it's supposed to use this part, but long story short, that falls off. And if all goes well, it should just fall off and bounce down the highway. But in this case, it had fallen down in between here and wedged itself in there. And visually inspecting from underneath, I missed it the first time. Because every Prius I've seen was always missing that piece. And then I was looking at mine, on my car, and I said, hey, there's another piece there. It's a bump stop. So if it's like, if your rear view mirror is vibrating to the point where it seems like you have a really good sound system subwoofer in the back, then that could be your problem. So what I'm going to show now up here, apologies for the shaking camera. I was going to get the tripod and stuff, but oh well. Here's some other bad transmissions. That one back there did not have, it was not making noise like how this one did, but it had codes. And this one was burnt stator on, what was it, MG1 or MG2? I want to say, oh yeah, MG2, yeah. One of the windings, one of the phases, you're gonna see what I'm about to show you, caused that to burn. This one here had a mechanical failure. Now, in both cases, what happened, there was a mechanical failure, I should specify. Or perhaps not on this one. It had excessive wear, but it hadn't had pieces breaking off like this one did right here. But the trans fluid was probably never changed, probably never flushed. And so it gets all that metal shavings in it, and eventually it causes the transmission fluid to go from being an insulator to being a conductor. And that's when it shorts the one of the windings. That's when you have problems. Now, I got lucky. I got to catch one right before that happens with this one. Trying to get it to, oh, there it goes. Do you notice the magnetic lines of these shavings? Now, those are shavings. Now, if I said your fluid color is purple, maroon, I guess would be a better term for it. But if I do this, this has been sitting for a while, so it's settled. You can see that translucence, the metal shavings in it. And when I first pulled the drain plug on this one, yeah, there was actual little pieces, not just shavings, but little chunks. So, you know, if it was a transmission with 200K on it, it might be normal to see that. Now, this was only at about 130K. And that one back there was only about 130K. So those are some of the lowest failures I've seen on these transmissions. And all I could think is that fluid flush should have been done back around 60,000 and probably 100,000. And it wasn't. Of course, I flushed it when I got this transmission on this one that I got down there. So that one in the garage down there has 133K. So, but yeah, I just thought that was so interesting. You could see, and I was reading about somebody, one of the garages, I can't remember if it was Luscious Garage or somebody else, but it had jumped, when it did arc, it had come into this temperature sense harness. It was, yeah, actually it was up on the top up here. So instead of arc, you know, it doesn't have to be down here. It could be anywhere where it finally arcs. In their case, it had done it right next to this wire, and it had actually sent high voltage through this to the hybrid control ECU and fried part of the PCB in the hybrid